This Houston team might be the surprise team in the whole Big 12 conference. I'm going to give you the four biggest impact players for them on this offense that are going to give the Mountaineer defense maybe some trouble on this episode of Mountaineer Moment. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 63 of Mountaineer Moment, your source for West Virginia football and basketball. And basketball season, whether you know it or not, whether you're ready or not, is just about a week away. And Mountaineers are going to be tipping off with Mount St. Mary's. We're going to have certainly lots of coverage on the basketball team moving forward. But this is episode 63, talking about the football team and their upcoming matchup with the Houston Cougars. As we know, Mountaineers were on the road for a little bit in a bye week. Came back home for homecoming, fell short to TCU 23-17, and now they're heading back out on the road to Houston. And the last time they were in Houston is certainly one you don't want to remember. Obviously, Garrett Green, Hudson Clement, find him for like that 4th and 10, 50-yard to take the lead, and then Mountaineers got Hail Mary on. If you want to go ahead and sim forward through these next few seconds, that might be smart. But, yeah, nightmare game. I actually happened to be in attendance at that one, so that's why I bring it up. Not the game you want to go to. So hopefully Mountaineers will fare better coming up this Saturday. But Houston, the surprise team in the Big 12, 7-1, 4-1 in the conference. A West Virginia team, obviously, we know the struggle. We know the struggle. Still yet to pick up a win in conference play, and at 0-5. So, it's been a struggle, to say the least. And here we are. Houston and West Virginia set to do battle this Saturday at 12 o'clock. Mountaineers 0-5, 2-6 overall, obviously. And, 12 o'clock on FS1. So, for this episode, as part of this week-long preview of the Houston Cougars and West Virginia Mountaineers, this one's going to be dedicated to talking about four specific players on the Houston roster, all four of which have transferred in, all four of which transfer into play this season, that are having a huge impact on this surprise Houston Cougars team. 7-1. Only loss coming to Texas Tech. We talked about that in a previous episode. You want to go take a deep dive into how they've gotten here, you can certainly go check out that one. It's only, I think, a 10 or 11-minute episode. But here on episode 63, we're going to talk about these four impact transfers that have probably exceeded expectations internally, and we know they've exceeded expectations externally around the Big 12 and around college football. All four of these guys have helped to allow Houston to be one of the surprises in all the land, all right? Houston comes into this matchup ranked 22nd in the country after they pick up a win against 24th ranked Arizona State. So all four of these players I'm going to give you a little bit of information on come on the offensive side of the ball, and it's truly, we don't typically do an episode like this if you followed Mountaineer Moment all season long regarding the football team, but this one just jumped off the page to me. When you do your research, when you look into Houston, when you watch them, there's four players on this offense that just stick out significantly. And so those are the four players we're going to talk about for this episode. And the first one, we're going to start with the quarterback. All right, we're going to start with a quarterback. That is Connor Weigman, transfer from Texas A&M. And I'm going to tell you exactly what he's been up to this season. Obviously had a lot of time at Texas A&M for 3 years. Totaled just about 900 or 1,000 yards in each of those seasons. He threw 19 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, so spent some time there. Didn't run it a whole lot there. His rushing stats have gone up significantly. So he had 97 yards rushing, 63 yards rushing, 101 yards rushing in 3 straight seasons there. And this year alone, on 87 carries, he's up to 354 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. We mentioned that number in that previous episode breaking down Houston, but another quarterback that is dangerous with his legs that the Mountaineers are going to have to face, and they've had their fair share of struggles with that. to this point this season. On the season, through the air, Weigman, 12 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, over 1,500 yards, and he's completing almost 64% of his passes. He's having a year to remember here. Again, put up some numbers in the SEC with A&M over the last few years, but here in Houston, being officially like, the guy, obviously sharing time at A&M and all of that. But he's the guy, and he has helped to elevate this Houston team to a place that no one necessarily expected them to be. You look around at the Big 12 preseason polls a few months ago, and Houston, if they're not the bottom, they sure are close to the bottom. And now, as we're kicking off this game, it's going to be November 1st. So when the calendar turns to November, Houston will be nationally ranked, and they will be right in the thick of things in the Big 12 Conference for a chance to get to Dallas for the Big 12 title game. Whoa, right? If you had that on your bingo card, I think you're lying, right? If you're saying that, because I don't know who saw this coming. Maybe the guys internally, I don't know. But Connor Weigman has been a big part of that. Be sure to look out for him with his arm and with his legs. If you break down even what he's done over the last couple weeks with his legs. So they're coming off wins against Arizona and Arizona State. Against Arizona, he had 98 yards on 14 carries and a touchdown, and he took those numbers up another level when they went to Arizona State on the road, nationally ranked. 24th team in the land was Arizona State last week, and Houston beat them 24-16. Weigman had 21 carries, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, yes, he is very much a threat with his legs. Something, again, that didn't really see a whole lot of. Did not really see a whole lot of during his time at A&M, but he's just elevated his game here in the Big 12 and is a major, major part as to why they've been so successful. So keep an eye on Connor Weigman, the quarterback for the Houston Cougars. Next player we're going to talk about is right beside him, Dean Connors, who also is a transfer coming over from Rice after 3 years spent there. So just like Weigman, 3 years at a previous school before making the move over to Houston, and he's produced this year at a high level. 586 yards, 4.3 a carry, and 4 touchdowns on the ground. He also has a receiving touchdown to boot as well, and he was a 780-yard rusher the year before, 771 the year before that at Rice, and so a capable runner who's taken his game up again in dealing with power conference football, moving from Rice to the Big 12 with Houston, putting up some numbers that are good and impressive, and he has been a major part as to this Houston turnaround this season. He has eclipsed the 100-yard mark twice. He's gone over 80 2 more times on top of that. Last couple weeks, again, Arizona and Arizona State, we mentioned the running numbers of the quarterback. But Connors had 40 carries over the last 2 weeks, so heavy workload for him. Worked out well in that 31-28 win over Arizona. He had 20 carries for 100 yards. Against Arizona State, they shut him down a little bit, 20 carries for 48 yards for him. Again, it was Weigman who was really getting the job done on the ground in that one. Interestingly enough, in that 35-9 win that Houston had over Rice in week 2, which is Weigman's former school, or not Weigman, which is Dean Connors' former school, he played at Rice and went for 132 yards on 13 carries, so 10 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns for him in his return to Rice. You got to know that felt good for him. So Dean Connors, running back to keep an eye on. He wears number 44. He's a senior, and he's having himself a pretty good year so far to have his Houston Cougar team nationally ranked and still in the hunt for the Big 12, right? It's not all between BYU and Texas Tech. There's some other teams here that are fighting for that. So, Cincinnati, obviously, they're unbeaten in conference at 5-0, 7-1 overall. BYU unbeaten, and then it's Texas Tech and Houston, who are sitting at 4-1 in Big 12 play. All right, so two more here, and they're both weapons on the outside. I've got a few kind of interesting statistics for you, even with these two guys, that just show why we're highlighting these four, that just showcase, all right, well, these guys really are. How these four guys play is going to be indicative of a win or a loss. It's going to be indicative of team success, how much yards they get, because these guys are that vital to the offense. And that third one that we're going to mention is Amare Thomas, who is a wide receiver with 535 yards and 4 touchdowns so far this season. He spent the previous 2 years at UAB. He had 8 touchdowns last season, and he's coming over to Houston and doing a good job being a part of the offense and what they got going here. Again, major contribution, 30 catches, 535 yards, and 4 touchdowns. We're going to move over to that next one real quick, the last piece we're going to talk about, and then kind of highlight these two together as far as statistics that back up my points that I'm making here. So the last one here is a tight end, Tanner Koziol, who transfers from Ball State, spent the 3 previous seasons there. So interestingly enough, with all 4 of these guys, Amare Thomas is the only one that spent 2 seasons at his previous stop. The rest of them, just 1 previous stop, and it was 3 seasons with that previous school. So the tight end Koziol, who put up 839 yards and 8 touchdowns at Ball State, obviously was a big get in the portal for Houston, and so far this season he's been a top target with 4 touchdowns, 450 yards, and 43 receptions. So lots of catches, lots of targets for this big tight end, 6'7", 240-pound tight end who is getting the job done for Houston. I mentioned a few things that kind of back up what we're getting at here, and so here it is. So the 2 top targets, right? We mentioned receivers, Amare Thomas, Tanner Koziol, and they have combined, I told you what they did individually, but they have combined for 985 yards, and the team total through the air is 1,680. So 1,680 passing yards this season for the team, and these two guys make up almost 60% of the receiving yards. Hello, right? These guys are huge targets for this offense. 58.6% is that number that belongs to these two players, the percentage of receiving yards that they hold. And it doesn't just stop there. So they have 8 of the 13 passing touchdowns. Obviously, that's over 50%. They have 73 of the 132 receptions for Houston this season. That's well over 50% as well. So they are vital to Houston's production. They're vital to Houston's offense. They're vital to this 7-1 campaign that they are off to here. That's been a bit of a surprise. And so, I don't know what it was, obviously, in preseason polls, and you do with that what you will. And as West Virginia fans, right, we were hoping for a better season. But then you see a team like Houston, who is kind of the opposite, expecting maybe them to have a worse season than they're having right now. And here they are at 7-1, and they're doing it with 4 major impact transfers on the offensive end, right? These are 4 names that you need to know about, on this Houston team, that you can know about this team as you head into game day on Saturday, where the Mountaineers are going to visit Houston for that 12 p.m. kickoff on FS1. So there'll be more content coming your way, talking about West Virginia football, again, West Virginia basketball, as that's getting ready to ramp up, and we're real excited for that. But hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's continue to grow. Let's continue to grow the Mountaineer Moment show here. Join the Mountaineer Moment movement, as I like to say, and subscribe and help me, help you. And, we'll keep this thing rolling. Again, a few more episodes to come this week, even before kickoff, so be on the lookout for those. Be on the lookout for basketball content as that ramps up. And, short one here. But again, 4 impact players for you to know about on this Houston offense so it doesn't catch you by surprise on Saturday afternoon. We'll see you next time on Mountaineer Moment.